Soros getting ready to participate in the IMF meetings, telling me exclusively that we could see multiple defaults out of Europe, that policymakers in Europe have followed the wrong policy shifts, and that the U.S. may already be in a double-dip recession. I began my conversation with Mr. Soros, asking his view on how he sees things playing out in the Eurozone.
I think that you could have 2 or 3 of the small countries default or leave the euro, provided it is prepared and done in an orderly way. If it were to happen unprepared, it could actually disrupt the global financial system. But that's why it's important to allow for it to happen. And then those countries have a genuine choice. It doesn't mean that they are being pushed out. They then have a genuine choice of making the internal adjustments, taking the pain within the euro, or leaving the euro, in which case their currencies would depreciate, and it would be, something happening to the whole country. So
you think it's possible then we'll see defaults from these smaller countries, but that doesn't impact the euro?
Right.
So much talk, certainly in the markets. I mean, the U.S. market is just trading directly on what happens in Europe, and so much talk around this troika, the EU, the IMF, and the ECB, on whether or not they're going to give that next tranche of money to Greece. Greece said that it runs out of money in October. Are you feeling like we are seeing implementation of austerity that, in fact, that would warrant this next tranche of money?
I'm pretty sure that the Greeks will pass whatever law the Troika asks for in order to get the next tranche. And basically, the European powers will want to extend that tranche. So I think the climax won't come in September because they are not prepared for it. They have to create this EFSF, whatever it's
right, the bailout
for.
Fund, yeah.
It's the potential European treasuries, but it's not yet in existence. So they want to bring it in, and then in December, if at that time Greece hasn't delivered, then it would not get the next tranche.
Is what's happening right now in the U.S. and Europe worse than the Lehman Brothers fallout?
It is a more dangerous situation. Yeah, and I think that the authorities, when push comes to shove, will do whatever it takes to hold the system together.
Because they know that.
Because the alternative is just too terrible to contemplate.
Do you think that it's appropriate that in all of this the U.S. dollar becomes the safe haven, even though that there are real economic issues in the United States right now?
Yeah, this is a liquidity problem because, and let me explain, it's a little bit complicated. The European banks are the main source of credit to the emerging markets. According to the BIS, in March this year, the European banks had claims of $3.5 trillion. The American banks had claims of $740 billion, and the Japanese banks had 310. So you can see that Europe is the main source of credit to the emerging markets.
Do you think we'll see a double dip here in the U.S.?
I think we are in it already.
Is the market expecting that? Do you think things get worse from here? How does it play out in the U.S. right now?
We have a slowdown and basically a conflict about whether the rich ought to pay taxes to create jobs or not. And there was a deal in the making which would have balanced the budget over the long term, but would have allowed short-term fiscal stimulus, which would have been the right policy. That was rejected. It fell apart. So it will come to the electorate next year to decide what they want.
But George, do we have that much time? I mean, if we're in this recession now, this double dip right now, if we don't get something going in this economy, where will the jobs come from?
Well, we will have a slowdown. We will have a double